So thank you. The topic today is healthcare powers of attorney for recent high school graduates. My goal today is to, one, explain why you should have one of these, and then two, go through the form so that for those who want to execute it by themselves will have the information they need to execute it by themselves. Should you want to have a chance to execute it in person with me and some of my colleagues, some other lawyers, you can. There'll be a clinic at 739 Elm Street in Winnetka at the New Trier Township on August 3rd from 3:30 to 6:30. I will be there, and some other lawyers will be there, and they'll meet with people. I think you need to schedule in advance.
Correct.
Yeah, you need to schedule in advance. The session probably takes, 45 minutes, and we go through this document with you, answer any questions, and execute it. Everything is provided from the attorney and the witnesses. With that, any questions before I start? So why execute this healthcare power of attorney? And I think the best example I can give is actually one of my partners. Her son, whose name will remain nameless, was a freshman at Michigan and did not have one of these powers of attorney for healthcare. And he ended up having a heart condition. Luckily, his roommates or people in his dorm called 911. He went to the hospital, and his parents found out. His roommates called his parents, and they get in the car, drive 4.5 hours to Michigan, and they call the hospital. The hospital won't talk to them. Why won't they talk to him? Because they don't have one of these. Had they have had one of these, they could have just emailed it to the physician, and he or she would have answered all their questions. But if you're not incapacitated and permission isn't given to talk to someone, the doctor can't talk to you. So to prevent that situation, get on top of that situation, you should really execute a power of attorney for healthcare to name somebody. Don't name two people. You need to name one person at a time to make medical decisions for you in the event that you can't. Any questions before I?
Who are those people that can be named?
Sure. So you can name, I wouldn't name your physician, but you can name anyone else. They have to be 18 years or older. It doesn't have to be a parent, although I've been doing this clinic a long time. Most people do end up naming one parent followed by the other, but you can name a friend, a sibling, an uncle, an aunt, a close relative, whomever you wish to name. I just wouldn't name, as I said before, two people, because you don't want to name both your parents, and one parent says do one thing, another parent says do another thing, and the doctor just is moving his or her head back and forth and doesn't know what to do.
So you have to pick your favorite parent?
Yes. This is a way to find out secretly who your favorite parent is.
Or the one who has a more flexible schedule to be there when you need them.
Right. I mean, so that's a very good point. So, for example, a lot of you are traveling away, but if there's a parent who's local, it just may make sense to name them. Or if you have a parent who's abroad and it's going to be harder to reach, that may not be the best person to name. And you could put in language in here. I haven't studied this particular form, but certainly you can add in specific limitations. You could write in, like if you're naming one parent, not because you want to pick a favorite, but because you have to name one person and they're not together anymore, you could say, to the extent practicable when making a decision, please consult with XYZ person. That way you're saying, this is my intent. I'd like you both to talk to each other, but I had to choose one person and choose that one particular person. Good question. Thank you.
If one spouse is not available, then, and that is the one who's named, then what happens?
So you would name you're going to want to name a successor. You should always, if you can, name at least one successor.
So
for that exactly.
So you name alternates.
Right, exactly right. You don't want to, that's the last thing you would want to do is name one person and then they're not available because I was in New York last week, in New York on vacation, then that way you can kind of go down the list. And you should put this on file with your doctor so that they have it, assuming they take it, which I presume that they would. Good question. If we don't have any other questions, if you really want, you can honestly fill it out now if you have a pen. up to you. But at the very top of the form, you're just gonna, fill in your name and sign it. And there's a lot of 4 pages worth of language that I'm not gonna read one because I have limited water and I lose my voice. But it's basically saying you are giving away medical decision making to your agent in the event that you can't make your decision. And it's not just, and in order to make the decision, your agent is going to get access to your medical records. You can't make an informed decision without getting access to your medical records. So I did look in this form ahead of time, and there's a specific provision in there that says my agent shall get access to my medical records, because how could you make a decision if you don't have access to medical records? So this is something that I would say read ahead of time. It just says who can be your agent. It's just a little bit of information that I'm going to go through, but the types of decisions that your agent can make. Your agent can talk with their physicians. As I said, they can see medical records. They can give permissions for tests, medical surgeries, or other treatments. Choose when to receive care or when not to receive care. What this particular form does not cover is organ donation. So if you mark your driver's license and it says organ donor, you're an organ donor. If you don't, you're not. In the form we use in my office, we do have organ donation, and maybe we'll bring that one as an option to when we execute at the clinic, because it's a little bit more robust. And the form is absolutely fine, but just a couple other decisions. Who can be your agent? As I said, they need to be 18. They should know you well, and I think that that's a really good point. If you're naming someone as your agent, you should. It's not the most comfortable conversation, but if you want them to know your wishes, please tell them what you would want to do when they're making decisions for you. And that's for the people I chose. I've had that conversation with them. Your question, if a person's not available, the next person in line can make the decision. If you don't choose your agent, then if you don't have one of these, then the law comes into play, and it kind of goes down the line amongst your family members. How do you sign the form? We'll fill it out. It needs to be witnessed by one person. That witness needs to be 18. Can't be the person you're naming. Can't be related to you. Can't be your doctor. The beauty of this form is we're giving you a sample. If you change your mind, you can always redo it. I've had clients who have come in and said, "Oh, I picked this decision. I want to change." It's so easy. I don't need to be there. It's like once you've done it, you can just kind of look at it, do it, go to your next door neighbor, have them witness it, and then it's done. You certainly don't have to use this form, but I strongly recommend it for the reasons I said at the beginning. Any questions before I go through the form in more detail?
Do you have additional forms?
Oh, I have the one from.
Oh, it's
We may not have exactly the same form.
Yeah, the form I have I might have, let me just see.
Oh, don't worry.
Are you sure? I might have more than one in my bag, because I think I printed 2.
Form, will it be recognized in any other state?
Yes. So, did you hear that question, or do you want me to repeat it? It was a good question. Okay, I'll repeat the question. So a question came in from the audience. And said, if the student goes to college or moves to another state, will this form be respected? The answer is yes. I think while you're in college, you might as well use this form, but if you decide that you're gonna live in Michigan, you should have a Michigan document, just because. But for now, for these purposes, it will absolutely be respected. But if you're a student and you're spending the year in each place, you're probably technically still an Illinois resident, but if your residence moves, I would say get the local form. And this is a statutory form. So this is a form that if you were to look at the Illinois code, you would see this form there, maybe not verbatim, but very close to what's been put in here. Hello.
Welcome, have a seat.
This is so well hidden. There's no way we would have done this without.
Thank you.
So within the form, you're going to fill out, just put in your information, but then also you're gonna put in your agent's information, name, they ask for address, honestly, I don't know why address is in there, cause it's not that important, but the agent's phone number, that's the most important piece of it. So if you just have the agent, but your agent's name is Bob Smith, which is a common name, doesn't do very much unless you have the phone number. So fill that out, and then there's also a spot in here for a successor agent. So you have your agent and your successor agent. I always put for name, I always put relationship too. You know, my mom's name is Barb. My mom, Barb Garber. Number one, she's not, but hypothetically speaking. And then I'd put her contact information and do that for the secondary agent. Below here, you'll see that my agent can make healthcare decisions for me, and read these, but they can make decisions regarding a mental health facility. They have complete access to your medical records. And this is very important that this be included in the form, because if they don't have access to your medical records, as I said before, you can't make an informed decision. When does this form kick in? You can have it start immediately, which is what I would say most of my clients do, or you could only have it kick in when you're deemed to be incapacitated. It could be unclear if you're incapacitated. So I would suggest doing, if it were me, I would do immediately. That way, one, I name my wife. My wife can, if she wants to talk to my doctor, she can talk to my doctor without me having to call and just give them permission. It's just much easier and much clearer if you choose the top one. But again, ultimately up to the person who is executing this form, which one to do. But I would say most people have it immediate. That way, if you name your mom or your dad and you want to give them access to talk to your doctor, they just need to send this in and they can talk to your doctor. Any questions about
I'm
that?
just curious, so if my son goes away for college, does he need a hard copy of that just in case something happens?
So he doesn't need a hard copy of it.
Uh-huh.
An electronic copy will work. And so that's what I would do, is I would just, you should keep an electronic copy and your son should keep an electronic copy. I don't know if there's any way to file it with the,
If, for example, he goes to the ER,
Right, right.
unconscious.
right, so that's an easy one, because then you would, I mean, not an easy one, but God forbid, but
Yeah.
you would just send this to them and you'd be able to talk immediately. But also, you may be able to put it on record with the school. I don't know. I know that there are other forms that people ask that you can fill out with the school, like to get access to perhaps grades and other information.
Because my son is in the spectrum and he's going away for college, and so they asked me to sign a FERPA, I think it's what it's called. And so I guess together with that, maybe I could also present that to
Right, I would present that because maybe to the infirmary or whatever. That way, you can have access and talk to them. So that's a very good question. Any other questions?
Is there a difference between this form and HIPAA form?
So HIPAA is embedded into this. So the HIPAA allows you, for privacy reasons, if you don't, HIPAA prohibits doctors from giving medical information to someone other than the patient. But this form specifically gives access to medical records, so it covers HIPAA. In some states, when I do forms in other states, we actually have to do a standalone HIPAA authorization, but luckily, whoever did this put in the HIPAA language.
I have another
Sure.
question. I don't know what this form, is this form like good for all states, any states, generic? One comment that I've heard in other seminar was that it's good to get the form that is applicable to a particular state because the healthcare professionals are familiar with the form in California, Ohio, something else. So they won't give you trouble that I'm not sure what this form says. Is it true?
So just two things on that. One, I would say if you're a student, you might as well do Illinois
Okay.
because you're going to come back and forth, and you don't want to have more than one form. So if you look at I know you don't have, but if you look at the first sentence of this form, it says this form revokes all powers of attorney that I have. So if you execute like an Illinois one and a California one, and you execute the California one second, it also says that technically this is revoked. Now, good
I
luck
know.
to somebody proving
Right.
it. But,
Right.
so I say if the person decides to move to New York or wherever, you should throw this away and have a form for where you live.
From
But
that
while,
state.
but while you're in college and you're kind of going back and forth, in Illinois,
We'll do,
we'll
okay.
just fine. And it's respected. If it's validly executed in Illinois, it's validly executed in any other state. Now, if you're going to college in France, I don't think this will be respected, but you can only be so lucky. Do you have another question? No. So in terms of expressing your wishes, there's also a provision on here to say, to express your desires regarding life support. And anyway, there's a point in here to express your desires regarding life support and whether and when you want the, I'll make sure I do that. Whether or not you want life support removed or to be kept alive forever, ever, and ever, and ever. And that may change through time. So this form can be revoked at any time. And then there's another spot on here to include specific limitations on your agent. And so what I've seen on that is, one, some people may want to give information about like a family burial plot. This is more for my older clients. Some people may say, I don't want you to do anything for 2 weeks. Wait for 2 weeks to make a decision. Or I want you to consult with XYZ person before you can make a decision. Something we covered before you guys got in is you can't name co-agents. So you can't name both parents if that's who you want to name. So you may say, I'm picking my mom and I want you to consult with my other parent to the extent possible when making a decision. So that's something that we'll oftentimes put in here. And then you go through that and then you get to your signature and you date it and you have it witnessed and it's validly executed. Something that was added to this form, which we don't have my own form, is delayed revocation. And so you can say that if you initial it, and you decide to revoke it, there's a 30-day waiting period. Because oftentimes, what can happen is someone can name their parents, say, all right, well, now you're getting too much information, I revoke it. And by including this 30-day kind of cool down period, they have 30 days for it to take effect and change their mind. On the last page, it needs to be witnessed by someone who's 18 years or older, and the witness needs to just print their name and put in their information. Again, cannot be your physician in any way, shape, or form.
Can it be your other family member?
So no, it cannot be anyone who's related to you,
Okay.
or anyone you've named as your agent.
Mhm.
But it could be me. Probably most of us in here. Assuming we're all over 18.
Coming back to this interstate for a
Yeah.
moment. So if Illinois does not require the healthcare power of attorney to be notarized, but in other state it is required, does it matter that the Illinois one is not?
So the question is, if Illinois doesn't require it to be notarized, but another state does, will it still be valid? The answer is yes, it will still be valid. When we've done this clinic in the past, because we know that people are going out of state, we've included a notary block, and I think we actually included a second witness, just so we made sure that we were executing it with way more formalities than Illinois has, but no state is going to require anything more than 2 witnesses and a notary. So it's not a bad idea to do it, but if it's validly executed, it's validly executed. But to your point from earlier, it's like you don't want to be in there arguing with someone that this is a validly executed power of attorney. So why not do that? Any other questions? We can always go through yours and after we're done, execute it too, since you get the gold star. No.
Maybe this was covered at the beginning, but does the child or student, can they do it before they turn 18?
Before they turn 18 or 19, did you say?
18.
Yeah. So no, you have to be 18. I mean, you certainly can fill it out before you turn 18. The question is, can you execute this before you turn 18? No, you have to do it. Actually, when I was young for my age. When I went to college, I was 17. So I couldn't have done it before I went to college.
Okay.
But once you turn 18, you could do it. We are having a clinic where we are going to execute powers of attorney for healthcare and property. I don't know when the birth date is, but it is August
Third.
3rd. So perhaps that will actually work and the student will
Birthday
be
is
18.
in July, so yes, they
Yeah.
will be 18.
Yeah, so come to the clinic and sign up in advance. I think each session probably takes about 45 minutes, and we'll go through all this, and they'll have the option of you being there with them, or they can go. Ultimately, it's the student's choice because they're 18, whether their parent is sitting next to them or not. But I can promise that it'll be validly executed when we're done.
And the form doesn't have to be like your student needs to go, like they're going to another college, they could still be staying with you, but having that form, gives you the, what do you call it, it's not a right, but like, at least you're in the know in terms of their, healthcare decision making, right?
So the question was, are you necessarily in the know on the healthcare decision making? There's a question here about when this springs into action. If they click the immediately, if they check or initial the immediately one, then yeah, you can find out information. But if the student goes to a doctor that you don't know about, I don't know how you find out. But presumably, if you know their doctor, you can call the next day and leave a message for the doctor, and he or she should call you back and provide you with that information. But if they check only if I'm incapacitated, then no, they won't be able to provide you with that information. So that's a very important point about why you want to do this, because if you didn't have one of these, the answer would be no, because the law would say it only kicks in if you're incapacitated. That's when other people can start making decisions
I
for you.
really need to sit down with my son and figure things out because it's a big thing, like, you know, how the independent and private they are, and so, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it just because you fill out this form doesn't mean that someone's going to be calling around for every doctor. It's just like it gives you access to it, but hopefully, whoever you're choosing, you trust and know won't violate your trust. Any other questions?
Do you have this form available online?
So I think it is available, right?
It is in a sense that if you let us know, we'll send this to you, email this to you. So I think when you register for this August 3rd clinic, we will email this form to you. I'm sorry we don't have enough today, but that's for sure. So you will get it.
And you should be able to find this is a statutory form. So you should be able to find a free version of it. I mean, do not pay for it. Like if someone is trying to charge you $30 for a form that like literally you can find the code and cut and paste into a Word document, don't pay for it. But there should be free versions online. I just haven't really looked.
And the title people will be looking for is?
Statutory short form power of attorney for healthcare. So that the question is, what is the title of the form? It's a statutory short form power of attorney for healthcare.
And the North Suburban Legal Aid Clinic is always a great resource. They can be contacted directly or through New Trier Township.
Right.
It's a call.
And you said that you will provide copies of the form, and
Correct.
I volunteered at the clinic. I guess we haven't done it the last couple of years, unfortunately, but we're back in action.
Right, exactly. Well, we've done this before. We did it before the pandemic, and then during the pandemic, it was only a presentation. And this year, so this is the first year where we can do this again, like sit down with students and do this in person.
So the clinic that you're offering is like with the parents and the student, you're going to do one-on-one, or is it just a group, kind of like
It's-
this thing?
Do you want to speak her to it? So the question is the clinic going to be group or is it going to be one-on-one? And you answer.
Yeah, so how it will look like is the student comes, the parent does not even need to be there because this is the student's decision, right? And they will sit one-on-one with Adam or another volunteer attorney that we will have, and they will just work together, talk about what they want get from that form, what not, and what it means, and at the end they will come up with the form ready in hand.
Right. So the form will be executed. There'll be attorneys there and witnesses too.
And that's
Because-
for free?
What'd you say?
That's for free?
I'll
Yeah,
let you.
it is for free. We are a non-profit organization, so there is a suggested donation,
Okay.
but that's the idea.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great, and we probably are able to get, each attorney may be able to do 3 or 4 students throughout the time, and it's just, we go through, and it's been well attended in the past, so I would suggest. Is the link live yet, or is it?
After the 4th of July.
So the link is, yes.
If you're here today, you have a sneak peek at what the link is, but it will go live after.
Yeah, it will go live after the 4th of July, so I would say, I don't know if it's sold out in the past, but it may, and my experience is it's been very well attended. Thank you. Looks like no other questions?
What happens with these forms after explain what executing the form is, and then what the next steps
Right.
are? A student.
Right, so
leaves.
student executes this form, it's valid immediately upon execution. I would say, make a copy of it, so you have it. You do not need the original, and scan it, so that you have it on your computer. Whoever the agent is should have it, the student should have it, you should put it on file with your doctor, and if you can't, put it on file with the school. And it's valid until it's revoked, until you execute a new one, or until you rip it up.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for.
My pleasure. Thank you guys for coming.
Thank you.
Want to do it?